All right, we do want to switch gears now and turn to other news. Let's go over to it.
All right, Rachel and Ginger, thank you. Now to the judge in the Idaho college murders case, lifting the order that banned police and prosecutors from talking about the case. The suspect pleaded guilty earlier this month to brutally killing 4 students in exchange for avoiding the death penalty. We're joined now by Kaylee Goncalves' parents, Steve and Christy, along with their attorney, Shannon Gray. Thank you all so much for joining us. We truly appreciate it. Christy, I'd like to start with you first, because as we noted there, the lifting of this gag order now means that more evidence, documents can be revealed to the public. People who are involved in the case, investigators can speak openly. What more do you hope to learn in the days and weeks ahead?
Just details surrounding what happened to Kaylee. We don't really have that. So that's, and just how the investigation unfolded and how they found out who the suspect was and leading up to the arrest, just that information really. We just want to know about Kaylee. And we've gone all this time not knowing the details, and we really want those details.
And Steve, as we mentioned, Kohberger pleaded guilty. He's expected to spend the rest of his life behind bars. But you oppose this plea deal. Why is that?
Death penalty is the ultimate in providing justice for my daughter. And I don't know what kind of father wouldn't want the most for their child. So I didn't want shortcuts, and death in prison is 23 hours of isolation, and you don't have the influence that you do when you're in general pop and when you're going around writing papers or doing certain things to get influence. I don't want this guy writing about what he did to our kids, and I don't want him flexing in there and getting away with things.
You mentioned the death penalty as part of this. He avoids that with this plea deal. But could it have been done differently? Let's say, for example, he talked about the motive, why he committed these murders, where the murder weapon is. If that information were revealed as part of this plea deal, would you have felt differently?
100%. I mean, we spent 3 years. There's a right way to end this. There's a right way to do this, and not a shortcut. And for me to pretend like there was shortcuts weren't taken, it's not part of me.
Shannon, from a legal perspective, do you see this as a shortcut that the prosecution moved through? I mean, we know that some of the families ultimately did support this plea agreement.
Well, ultimately, the family thought that, they had a strong case, right? They had a case that they could prove, and they could get the death penalty in this case. And like Steve said, the difference between doing a life sentence, being in general population, having TV, having all access to the things that he wants to do, versus a death penalty sentence, which you're incarcerated 23 hours a day, 1 hour you're out. They knew that they were never going to see him die. But his life in prison would have been a lot different. And so not finding out any answers about it, not finding out, getting any information about the case, that's why it's important now that the discovery, the family gets a copy of the discovery on the case. That's one of the things we've done. We had a conversation with the prosecutors already. We've asked for a copy of that discovery. They're going to provide it to us. We hope they keep their promise, because if they don't, we're left with public records requests for the next 2 or 3 years with the city of Moscow, Moscow Police Department, Idaho State Police, FBI. So we're hoping we get that discovery, we get some of the answers that they want, and find out what went on.
You mentioned a conversation with the prosecutors. Have you had some of these conversations behind the scene in a way in which you learned more about Kaylee's final moments, perhaps how she fought for her life? What more have they been able to tell you that has not been revealed through the court proceedings so far?
Nothing.
We learned more in books, like the U of I book. U of I knew more about our children than we did. Now Mabit, the coroner, did give us some details, and thankfully she did that. But we'd have to confirm those, because those details were given with an explanation that she's not, an investigator. So she was like, this is how she passed away, but she didn't give us all the details, and we want to hold them accountable for all those details.
Sentencing is expected next week. You both mentioned to me earlier that you plan to be there.
Yes.
What else do you hope to hear during that time? What do you expect?
Well, we're not really expecting much, as we already know what the judge is sentencing him to. So that's not going to be anything new. So we're just going to give our victims.
Do you want to hear? Do you hope to hear more from Kohberger himself?
I haven't been expecting that. I don't expect to hear him say anything.
I don't even think they'll ask him. That's what we asked them, was to, you know, if he's going to make an agreement, plea deal, then make sure that he, make sure that he says he did it solely and gives information that, if the world's saying, they'd be like, he's guilty. He knew exactly where the kill kit was. He knew exactly where the knife was. And that would just end all the rumors, and we could just move on.
Before we go, I know that both of you have been incredible advocates for your daughter. How do you want everyone to remember Kaylee?
Just remember Kaylee as, the light that she was. She was funny. She was smart. She loved having a good time with her friends. She loved her family. She loved taking her dog out. Just the happy person that she was. She was, just ready to take on life. Stepping into the big world, and she was happy to do that.
Yeah, we want the world, with your audience, to remember Kaylee Jade. And remember each one of these victims and forget about this guy.
Oh, I'm sure they will. And Steve and Christy and Shannon, thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you.